Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? When I was trying to get this podcast off the ground, I had a lot of questions. How do I record an episode? How do I get my show into all the apps people like to listen? How do I make money from my podcast? Well, the answer to every one of these questions is really simple. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now, Anchor can match you with great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. That means you can get paid to podcast right away. In fact, that's what I'm doing right now by reading this ad. When I started using Anchor to do my podcast, it was so extremely easy that I haven't even bothered to look for another app to use. I love this app. It's the only one I deal with, the only one I even recommend, period. I recommend you get on there ASAP. If you want to start a podcast, this is definitely the place to go. It's easy. You can drive around and record. You can sit in your basement and record. You can do it anywhere. It's fantastic. So if you've always wanted to start a podcast, make money doing it, go to anchor.fm/start, anchor.fm/start to join me and the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's Adam Rich from the Really Rich Podcast. And, listen, a lot of times I'll give these, I'll do these shows and I'll give a lot of different, ideas or topics or guidelines or, strategies or plans or whatever on how to make people's lives better, or, something I think is going to help you make your life better, or maybe help your mindset to where you're not people aren't so depressed or angry or bitter or fearful of judgment and all these things. And I love doing that. I always do. But a lot of people are always I never really tell much about why I am the way I am, or why I feel the way I do, why I am the way I am, or what got me here. And I think that can be very important. I don't mean to say it like I'm important and you guys should listen to my story, but I do think that it's good to give context as to why I feel the way I do, or why I tell people the things that I do, why I'm even doing this show in general, why I am where I am. I think it's very important for everybody to kind of be self-aware of who they are, why they are the way they are, what got you there. I think it's very important to reflect on yourself, on your past, your upbringing, the people you've spent a lot of time with. I think it's extremely important. And today, this episode isn't really going to be me, doing trying to uplift or anything like that. It's more just to give you guys kind of an understanding about where I'm from, a little bit about my backstory. So hopefully it's interesting. Hopefully you care. Hopefully it's helpful, because the whole point of me telling you any of this stuff is to try to give some context about where I'm at and why I'm here and why I tell people what I do or where my ideas come from and all that stuff. So basically, without further ado, the big thing for me is, as far as why, what got me to where I am today, it was a lot of different things. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I had some awful, horrific life or some, devastating tragedies that have happened to, teach me. There's a lot of things that went on in my life, but I would never sit here and try to act like a victim. I don't think that I am a victim. I don't think that I've come from some horrible circumstances that I'm not living some comeback story or anything like that. But I do think that there's a lot of people in the world, especially in America, but not even just America, in the world, that come from what I would call average homes, meaning not too shitty, not too great, not too rich, not too poor, things like that. I come from a regular, decent, working class, good family. And I'd like to explain, my mom and dad had, okay money when I was growing up. They weren't loaded. They weren't definitely weren't wealthy. Still aren't super wealthy. But we weren't poor. I wasn't living in very shitty circumstances, I guess. I wasn't, there wasn't many times where we were worried about food or having a roof over our head or anything like that. My dad always worked a lot. My dad always busted his ass. He was an extremely good role model about when it comes to that. Still is. And both my parents are still alive. I don't, I always say my dad was, or my mom was. I don't mean it like they're past. They're here. I just like to give context about where, how things were in my past. So my dad was like this when I was growing up, or my mom was like that. But my mom was always, I don't want to say she was more the strict one, but she was more of the no nonsense. My dad was always, he was strict as shit when he needed to be, but he was more of a silly, goofy guy, always wanted to make people laugh, always wanted to make me laugh. But when things were serious, he let me know. And my mom was the one who basically always showed me, never to let people screw you over, never to let people talk down to you or treat you poorly just because they think, a certain way or whatever. And I don't know which one was bigger into this, but I think both of my parents did a phenomenal job of hitting home with me about, you're not better than anyone. Nobody, you're not above anyone, especially based off color or gender or sexual preference or anything like that. You're not above anybody. You're a human being just like everyone else. Everyone has struggles. Everyone has goals, ideas, beliefs, and you're there to respect every single one of them. Now, if somebody does something nasty or detrimental to you or bad to you in a way that would make you lose respect or start to not be so respectful to them, then if they've earned that, let them have it, basically. But never look for that. Never go out of your way to be an asshole, basically. Never be mean to people for no reason. Now, you got to always understand that people are coming from different backgrounds. So when people are doing certain things or acting a certain way, it's not your job to correct it. It's not your job to think a certain way about them. You don't know what they're going through. So always be mindful of, you don't know what that other person is going through. So I think my parents did a very good job of grounding me. But I also grew up as an only child. I mean, I have two half sisters, but I never lived with them. They're both from my dad's first marriage. And, I basically grew up and lived like an only child. But the good thing about my parents that, and I always say this with love towards my parents, I don't feel like any of the good stuff that I have in my life is because I'm just so great. And I always want to make that clear, because sometimes I say things in a confident, cocky way, or sometimes I know I rub people wrong, where they think that I'm being arrogant. And I'm never, listen, at my core, I say things joking around. I love playing cocky. If I'm competing against somebody, I love the whole shit talking. I love all that stuff. But at my core, I never mean it. I never feel I never really am arrogant. And I know a lot of people may listen to that and be like, oh yeah, you are. They don't know that they don't know what's in your heart. Nobody knows what's in your heart. And I never, under any circumstance, feel like I'm a better person than anybody. I may be better at certain things, and you may be better at certain things, but neither one of us is a better person. And I think that's very, it gets confusing for a lot of people. Sometimes people get a little cocky because they're good at something, and then they feel, or they're smarter. I couldn't begin to tell you how many times I've been in a conversation where you just know, we know, you've been in conversations. I know you have. You've been in conversations where you're I'm arguing with an idiot. And it's just, why am I doing that? What's the gain here? Because, a wise man once told me, you can't win an argument with an idiot. They just drag you down to their level and they beat you with experience. And that is so true. It is so true. Listen, I remember my dad told me, he goes, listen, if you're in an argument with an idiot, and you're yelling and make your point, you're getting mad because they're not listening, and you're getting all pissed off, and then you walk away and you realize that person isn't listening to anything. Who's the real idiot? And I remember that hit me, because I'm if you're wasting all this time arguing with somebody that's just not getting it, or they're just arguing, you're getting pissed off, it's ruining your like mood and your frame of mind, then who's really the idiot? You know, I mean, obviously that guy is an idiot too, or that girl, but you wasting valuable time arguing and getting yourself to an elevated level of anger is just, or confusion, or like to get you out of your normal mindset just to try to prove that you're right. It's like, who is it really that important? Because what I've learned as I've gotten older is every conversation, every debate, it's a give and take of like, what are you really trying to accomplish? Can you change this person's mind? Because I've always had it in me to want to debate people or argue with people or discuss with people things that I think is going to help them. But at the bottom, you know, at the end of the day, some people don't want to be helped. Some people ain't going to listen. And it's not because it's an intelligence problem. It's not a problem with the head. It's a problem with the heart. Sometimes people don't want to believe. Like, you know how many people I've gotten when I was younger, throughout my whole life? You hear people that are Republican and Democrat arguing with each other, trying to prove each other's side as the more morally right side, or the more intelligent side, or the you don't care about people, this is why you're on this side. You know, like trying to argue. Half the time, what I've noticed, half the time people are Republican or Democrat because their family is, and that's how they were raised. It's just like if you're being raised in a Christian household or an atheist household or a Muslim household, it's very easy to have those beliefs kind of rub off on you without any outside research because you're surrounded by it. You know, if your whole family's having Christmas every year, but you're Jewish, you know, it's hard to, are you going to abandon your family and disown them and just never celebrate Christmas? Or is it easier to just celebrate Christmas even if you're Jewish? You know, it's like it's easy to take the side of the people around you because that's all you know. But I think the real challenge is in finding out information on your own and then presenting that to the same family that disagrees with it. You know, and I'm not saying to take the opposite side of whatever your family is just to, you know, have those conversations and all that. But, you know, whatever you feel like you are, I feel like if you really, really believe in that, then you should do a lot of fucking research on it. You should do a lot of homework on it for your own sake. Because listen, there's nothing more frustrating than somebody telling you that they're a certain way, but then everything that they argue about is the opposite of what they're trying to argue for. Like, let me give you an example. There's a guy I work with that is he bleeds and dies as a Democrat, and that's fine. Democrat, Republican, I don't care what you are, whatever. But it's weird because he'll argue how much he hates Republicans and how much he hates Trump and how much he hates the Republican view, but then he'll make arguments for why he loves guns and thinks there shouldn't be any gun control, which is a big-time right-wing issue. He'll make arguments for why freedom of speech is necessary, which the left doesn't seem to like at all. He'll make arguments for why he doesn't want, like, he's got 2 sons, and he doesn't like the label, like how they're saying it doesn't matter what you're born as, you can choose if you want to be a boy or a girl or whatever. He doesn't like that, which is another thing. It's like all these views that he shoots for, all these major ones, are super like right-leaning topics that he's all for, but yet he hates Republicans. And I think at the core, and it's hard for me and him to even have a conversation because he gets mad if I even say anything about Republican or Trump at all. Like if I mention the name Trump, he automatically checks out. I could be shitting all over Trump or blowing Trump. He doesn't really know or care. It's just as soon as the word Trump comes out of my mouth, he checks out and gets mad and doesn't want to hear it. And I'm like, dude, you don't even know where we're going with this. I'm not trying to have a Trump love talk. I'm trying to have a talk about your views and your beliefs. I'm not trying to shit on them. I'm not trying to applaud them. I'm just trying to see where you stand. I'm just trying to get an idea about how you feel. That's it. Like, I'm not here to support or shit on one way or the other. I don't care. I'm not a politician. I'm not ever sitting here trying to preach to other people about what side of the aisle they should be on. I don't care. And many people have various views or various reasons why they are where they are. I always say, to this day, I'm right down. I'm not one or the other. I don't like labels. Listen, I consider myself a very Christian person. I don't like going out and saying, yes, I am a Christian, I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm a this, I'm a that, because now you're putting yourself into boxes. You're putting yourself into little boxes. And if people don't agree with that box, you're checked out now. They are checked out from hearing whatever you have to say. And my goal isn't to sway people to any one side of anything. My goal is purely to help people's mindset so they're not miserable and upset and angry and depressed all the time. And also, it's to get out logic and truth and facts and knowledge and wisdom. And I just want people to do the research that it takes to learn, to grow. And listen, I don't know. All I know is the way I was raised, the parenting I had, the schooling I had, the friends that I had, all the things that I've done in my life that led to this point lead me to just basically say this. I just want to be here to help. I don't care if you're a Christian, atheist, Muslim, Jewish. I don't care if you're tall, short, fat, skinny, white, black, female, male. I don't give a fuck at all what you are or what you want to claim or what kind of label you want to choose. I don't care if you have the utmost pride in being a Republican or a Democrat. I really don't give a shit at all about any of that. I just care to give you the information that is going to lead to you being happy and free of judgment. I want people to appreciate what they have in life, because I know it's not a question to me anymore. It's not a debate to me anymore. I would love for somebody to have a conversation with me about it, or a debate with me about it, or an argument, or a discussion, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. I would love to just sit down with somebody and talk about, what do you think happiness comes from? Where do you think it starts? Because I've heard a billion different things, but the one thing that I can always, I can listen to this guy talk and that girl talk and this celebrity talk and this nobody talk. I can hear all these different views about why somebody's happy. And what I've noticed from each and every single individual on the face of the planet, every single one of them that says they're happy, it all stems from one thing only, and that's gratitude. It's appreciation for what you already have. I preach this stuff all the time, and I know it probably sounds repetitive. I know that there's some people out there that's like, oh, it's this again. I'm sorry, I don't know what else to tell you. There's only one main ingredient when it comes to happiness. There's plenty of other seasonings, that you can throw in. There's a great relationship, great health, great job, good financial situation, good house, a good, nice car to drive. Those little things are ingredients. They're little seasonings. They're little additions. But they aren't the root. That's not where it starts. Listen, if I have a nice car or a shitty car, I'm still a happy person. I know that it's not the car that brings happiness. Whether I have billions of dollars or I'm broke as fuck, it has nothing to do with why I'm a happy individual, why I'm happy at my core, why my soul is happy, It has nothing to do with money. And listen, I've never had $1 billion, so I definitely don't know if that's gonna help or hurt. I mean, I'm sure it can't hurt, but my point is this: I'm extraordinarily happy without it. So I know the lack of money doesn't hurt. I know plenty of people that have way less than I do that are just thrilled as fuck to be alive every day. Listen, if you ask somebody that gets into some kind of a horrific accident where they were told there's no hope for them to live, or there's no reason they should even be alive, but now they're alive, I guarantee you that person tells you they're happy. Now, they might have aches and pains, or they may have injuries or illnesses or something that lingers on, that leads to some form of suffering or anything. But I guarantee you, if you ask them, would you be happier dead than you are alive? They all want to be alive. Anybody who's been close to death, people that have tried to commit suicide and failed and are still alive, I've never once heard somebody try to commit suicide and then now that they're alive, they're fucking furious and they just can't wait to do it again. I mean, there might be a couple people out there ever who it's happened to, but you ask anybody that's tried to commit suicide, that means that they at one point wanted no life at all. And now they're alive and in way worse shape because they've attempted to commit suicide. And now they're not, and they're happy they're alive. Like almost all of them. And what is the thing? Break this down. Let's break this shit down together. They at one point did not want to be alive. They attempted to take their own life. And now they could be messed up in some way. They might have physical issues. It may just be mental issues. But if you ask them today, are they happy they're alive? They say yes. Now, what is the difference between not having a life, like not being alive, and being alive? What is the difference? Like, what do they notice is the difference? They're grateful that they have their life. It's gratitude for what they already have. Every fucking time. It's every time. It's gratitude for what is already in their life. I don't know anyone on earth. I don't know a single fucking person ever in the history of time that says, I'm a happy person, but or I would be happy if I had that money. And then they get that money and then all of a sudden they're happy. It's never happened. Why? Because money does not buy happiness. I know people think so. People are like, oh yeah, but then I can buy this. And people are always if I had a mansion and if I had a car and if I had an island, I would be so much happier. No, you fucking wouldn't. You just don't get it. That's the problem. If you think that you'd be happier with a set dollar amount, then you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And I don't say that to be mean. I say that because it's just the truth. When you can take a step back, whatever it is you have in your life, guaranteed it's more than a lot of people in third world countries. Dude, if you're listening to this right now, you have the technology that doesn't exist in some parts of the world that I'm talking about. There are people in villages that don't even have clean fucking water, that have to run 8 miles a day to find an animal to kill just to be able to feed them and their wife and their child. Those people, some of them people are happier than some of the people I know that have the internet. It's mind-boggling, people. It's all perspective. It has nothing to do with what you physically own. It has nothing to do with the material items in your world. It's 100% every single fucking time perspective. It's 100% your perspective. If you live in just a shit home, I'm trying to paint the shittiest picture I can. If you live in if you're almost homeless, if you barely have any food on your plate, like you barely can afford food, you don't have a vehicle to drive, you have to ride a bike everywhere, and if you have like the shittiest place to live, you still have a ton more than some of these people I'm talking about in third world countries who would kill to have half of what you have. It's just true. And I know, like, when you're in a bad place, you have, like, your parents are shitty to you. Your friend, maybe you don't have any friends. Maybe you got a horrible job. Maybe you dropped out of high school. Maybe you're just fucking miserable. I get it. I'm not talking like somebody who has had millions their whole life and have never had a bad day. I get it. The difference is, since as long as I can possibly remember, my parents have taught me to appreciate what I have, because most people ain't got it. And this is what happens. It's not just waking up and going, you know what? I appreciate what I have. It's not that. Actively fucking think about what you have in your life that most people don't. If you wake up every day and reach for your cell phone and pick up that cell phone, right away you got more than like 50% of the world. Which I know that sounds crazy. But it's true. You know how many people in the world? There are millions and millions and millions of people who don't even have the fucking, like, the original, like, Nokia phones that had Snake on it. They don't even have that technology yet. And you got a damn laptop or an iPad or cable TV or McDonald's right at the corner or a 7-Eleven right by your house. Like, you have so much shit, and yet we take it for granted. Because a lot of times what will happen is you'll get into a position where you're used to these things, and then you don't think of them as blessings anymore, or favor, or benefits. You just look at them as, well, this is my life. And then you'll find something else to be miserable about, and then you'll just focus on that. It's a perspective problem. It's a focus problem. And one of the reasons why I wanted to talk today about, like, how I got here, or like what my upbringing or what kind of parenting I had, is to explain to people why I'm so grateful. Why I have, like, I don't come from a rich family. I don't come from, other than my last name. My dad's last name was Rich. It still is. He never changed it. And so I come from a family of riches, but not when it comes to money. And it doesn't take money, though. It doesn't take fancy cars. It doesn't take just women falling all over you. It doesn't take followers just lining up to subscribe to your channel or an Instagram account. Like, if you look at my shit, it's extraordinarily average. You know, like, at this point in the game, because I'm not putting like 110% into my podcast like I want to be. I got a full-time job. I got a family. I got a daughter that's just over 1 years old. I got like a lot of shit going on. I would love for my podcast to be my only job. And then I could give you guys even more. I could video more. I could do more interviews. I could do more of this. I could build a bigger following. I could build a bigger Instagram. I would love to do all those things. And I'm working on that, but I'm working on it slowly because I have other obligations to take care of. Important ones that I am extraordinarily grateful for. Trust me, I don't take any of this lightly. I don't take it for granted. There's a lot of people I know that are like, wow, you don't have like a lot of Instagram followers or a lot of Twitter followers for somebody running a podcast. Yeah, I don't put as much time and effort into it as a lot of full-time podcasters. One, I'm not like 17, 18, 19, 20, 25 years old living at my parents' house where I don't have any bills. I got full-time shit to take care of. And so, as much as I'm trying to work on the podcast, I still try to pop one or two of these out every single week for everyone. I still try to have an online presence. I still try to update my social medias. I still try to listen, anyone that comments or connects with me, I'm always on top of that. I'm here for you guys. You know that if you've tried to reach out to me. I'm here for you guys. It's just things aren't moving quickly, like things aren't building quickly and quick, super fast. And that's okay. I'm here to show the start. I'm not just trying to run a successful podcast. I'm trying to build a successful podcast, build a great audience and great community. I'm trying to be a part of the community with you guys. I'm not just trying to put stuff out just for people to listen to and then me just go away and hide somewhere someday. I'm trying to build something meaningful. To me, it's infinitely more important to build a great legacy, a great reputation, a great following, a great audience, a great community. I'm trying to build all of it, but I'm trying to do things the right way, the good way, the honorable way, not some spammy bullshit way where I'm constantly putting out ads and just trying to grab your attention and just trying to, I'm being genuine. I'm being as genuine as I possibly can be. And it builds slowly because genuine scammy shit is what grabs the attention. You know, like if I put a bunch of pictures up of me with a bunch of half-naked girls in bikinis, that would grab a hell of a lot more likes than me saying, appreciate your life. You know, have sympathy for others. Do what makes you happy. That shit doesn't grab a lot of attention, but it's real and it is true and it's important. To me, you being happy is infinitely more money than you being loaded with money. Or infinitely more it's so much better in life to be happy than to have money. There are so many rich people that kill themselves. There's not, believe it or not, the statistics show that wealthy, I don't want to say wealthy like billionaires, but like middle class and up are more likely to commit suicide than the lower class. If you look at the numbers worldwide, there's more people in America, and America is one of the wealthiest countries on earth, if not the wealthiest country on earth, and more people are committing suicide in America than anywhere else. So it seems as though people with money seem to have a suicide issue more than poor people. Because you would think people are poor, if people are super poor, they're miserable, they're more likely to want to do that. However, a lot of poor people are grateful as fuck because they think about they appreciate the shit that they actually do have instead of wishing that they had more and more and more and more shit. It's just true. And part of why I got to this point was because of the parenting that I've had, beating it into my head from an early age about how great I actually have it, when financial wise, I don't have it that great. But in life, I feel untouchable. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know anything bad, anything can happen at any time. I'm just saying, I feel so incredibly happy because I've been so blessed with so much that I can point to that's not materialistic shit. Because I know how it would sound. Dude, if I was balling out of control, if I had millions and I'm driving in the fanciest cars and living in a mansion and I'm telling you about how happy life is, you guys would be like, yeah, fuck off. You have all that shit. Of course you're happy. I don't have none of that stuff, dude. So I think I'm in a perfect place. Not that I'm perfect. I think that I'm in a perfect place to be able to honestly tell you why gratitude is so incredibly important towards your happiness. It's not money. It's not things. It's not stuff. It's not people. It's what you already fucking have. If you're listening to this, then that means you have access to the internet, means you have some kind of a device, an electronic device, whether it's fucking YouTube or whether it's an app on a cell phone, whether it's a tablet, whatever, you have already more stuff than a lot of people who are probably that could be more happy than you are. And if you're already an extremely happy person and you get all this, it's like, I'm not trying to beat the same drum. I'm not trying to be repetitive. It's just true, man. It is just so fucking true. What do you have? What do you have? Don't tell me about what you're missing, about what you wish you had, about, I have this, but it's not as good as what I would have if I only had. No, I don't care about none of that shit. What do you already have? Do you have the ability to get out of bed and go to work? Do you have the ability to spend, or do you even have the money to spend on a bag of chips and a water, or buy a loaf of bread and maybe some lunch meat? Do you have basic stuff? Because there's a lot of basic shit that we have every day that we take for granted that so many people would kill for in other countries, in other parts of this country, other parts of America. And they just don't have it. And they're still happy. They're just happy that they're alive. They're happy that they have a mom or a dad or both. They're happy that they have siblings or cousins. They're happy that they have friends. They're happy that they have decent health or that their family has decent health. They're happy that they exist in wherever the fuck they're at. They're just happy to be alive because it's not a guarantee. Dude, if you're alive right now, you should be thrilled as fuck because this didn't happen 100 years ago. It's not gonna happen 100 years from now. You're not going to be here. So whatever time this is that you're listening to this, you're alive right now. And that is incredibly amazing. You should be happy about that. Stop waking up every day thinking about all the shit you don't have and start thinking about what you already have or what you've experienced. You know, like, I have friends that I'm not even like close with anymore, but I'm grateful for the time that we were really, really fucking tight. Like, I'm happy about that. Even if I don't have it now. I'm happy about the moments that I had in high school. I'm not happy about the homework. I'm not happy about all the boring shit that I had to go through and all the tests that I had to take and all the shit that I had to learn. I'm happy about my experience in high school. I'm happy that I experienced college. The shit that I didn't go, like the shit that I went to school for wasn't what I ended up liking, and I ended up dropping out. But I'm grateful for the moments that I had, the time that I spent, the experience that I was there. Like, I don't know what to tell. I don't know what to say. Like, it's not that my life was so much better than anyone's. It's just I appreciate the life that I've had, which is more than I can say for a lot of unhappy people. You know, that being said, like, one of the big things for me too, growing up, was I don't know what caused it. I wish I could help everyone get to this one specific spot. But one thing that always dramatically mattered to me, it still does to this day, but as long as I can remember, I've always cared about what's actually true. And I don't know. I mean, a lot of people say that they care, like, they want to know what's true and all that, but a lot of people don't. Like, I literally put in the work that, like, an unbelievable amount of finding out facts about everything. Like, anything that didn't seem to make sense. I know that I had to be the most annoying student and child to my parents because I constantly was always asking questions. And my question was always the same fucking question. It was always the exact same question. Every single question that I ever asked was, why? Oh, that's like, why? I want to know why everything is the way it is. I've had an insatiable fucking desire to know why for everything. And that, I think that has helped me more than anything in my life, is that I've always wanted to know why. If you tell me why, like, that something has happened or something is, my question is, well, why? And I don't mean it to be like annoying. I just always wanted to know why everything is the way it is. Why is Earth the way it is? Why is it where it is? Why are people here? Like, you tell me that the Earth is how old? Why? How do you know that? Like, I always wanted to know how and why. So I lied. My questions were how and why. Because I never knew enough. I always want to know more. And it's weird because I never thought when I was younger that my, like, constant obsession with learning more would lead to me teaching more. You know, I never had that, like, it wasn't like, it's weird, man. Like, there's teachers that go to school. There's people that go to school to learn enough to then become a teacher. I never did things for that reason. I just was obsessed with knowing why, like, everything is the way it is. Most people don't care to know all the truth. They just want to know enough to make them comfortable and make them successful or make them knowledgeable enough to know their way around something. And that's a lot of times, man, it's a lot of people. I've talked to so many people before that just, like, you'll know if you're an expert in any one field, because any one field, an expert knows more than me on those fields or whatever, or knows more than anyone on those fields. If you know, I don't know. I'm probably being confusing. I don't mean to be confusing, but I'm just saying, like, if you're an expert if you're an eye doctor, you know everything you know about eyes. If somebody came up to you and they were like, oh yeah, like the, TV, if you sit too close to TV, it fucks up your eyes. That's something a lot of us are told when we're young growing up, mainly because our parents just don't want us sitting close to the TV. But then an eye doctor might come along after studying years and years and years of knowing about eyes, and they'd be like, no, that's bullshit. And I don't know. I'm not trying to tell you it is bullshit. I have no idea. Maybe sitting too close to TV is bad. I don't know. What I do know is this. When you're an expert in anything, it's easy to tell people things, and then if somebody doesn't care to be an expert, you'll listen to somebody and go like, oh, well, but this person went to school for it, so therefore whatever they told me is true. But here's the fun part about it. I realized early on that there were two people, I don't remember what field or what topic it was about, but there was two people that both had degrees. They both had degrees in a certain field. We'll say math. I don't know. I don't remember which field it was. I don't even remember what the conversation was. But I remember where this shit hit me. Is there was two people that both had degrees. Both had their bachelor degrees or whatever in this field. And they were arguing about the correct answer on something. And I realized right then and there, you can have a degree. That doesn't mean you know shit. All that tells people is that you were willing to put in enough time and effort to nail your homework. You know, to go to school for all those weeks, all those months, all those years. You were smart enough to get out your textbook, memorize certain things to pass your test, but it never means that you've absorbed the information. It never means that you actually remembered anything. Because and I learned that young, but then I verified it for myself when I got older, because for my last 2 years of high school, I ended up getting a certificate in electronics, not a degree, not a full-blown degree, but it was like a 2-year certificate thing in electronics. I then decided that, hey, this is a good field for me to go to college for. So I started going to Henry Ford Community College. And I even did a little bit at Schoolcraft a little bit later, but I never finished my schooling. But I will say this, at least 90% of what I've learned about electronics, I didn't maintain any of that shit. I didn't. I mean, I can tell you little things, but there were so many formulas and so many like learning numbers and amounts for resistors and diodes and capacitors and all these things. If you're into electronics, you're probably laughing at the shit that I'm saying right now. That's how little I remember. And so now granted, that wasn't an expert field of mine, but it was something that I took very seriously for several years. And I don't remember a lot of it. And so what that teaches me is that just because you've passed a class or you've gotten a certificate, like if you got a degree in 1974, dude, I don't think that, I mean, unless you've kept up with your studies constantly, which you could say you did and not actually do, but unless you did, like if you have a degree from the 70s, dude, we've learned so much in the last 40 to 50 years that I don't believe that everything that you learned back then is still relevant. I mean, dude, they've talked about the age of the earth. Like you look back in history, like 100 to 200 years ago, they thought the age of the earth was like 70-something thousand years old. And then it became hundreds of thousands. Then it became a million. Then it became hundreds of millions. Then it became a billion. Then it became the earth is 4 point whatever billion and the universe is 13.8 billion or whatever. What I'm getting at is this. Information changes the better science we do, the better research we do, the more we learn. But a degree, you could get a degree 40 fucking years ago and people will still be like, oh, he's got a degree, he knows what he's talking about. You might not know shit. So I always thought it was incredibly important to do my own research. And you know what the beautiful thing is about the internet? Almost everybody has it. It's on your phone. You can get information instantly about anything. It's always been fascinating to me to learn more and more and more and more and more because I hated not knowing shit. When I was little, I hated looking stupid about something. Now, to this day, I just chalk it, if I'm wrong about something, I chalk it up as, okay, well, I didn't learn enough yet. But I never get that embarrassment feel that I had when I was younger. I hated looking stupid about something. Anytime that I was wrong about something and people knew information and I didn't, it was embarrassing to me. I hated it. Especially like when you're young and kids, they make fun. They go hard at you too. They just laugh and laugh. There'll be groups of people all laughing at you like you're the biggest fucking idiot on earth. And it could be something that like they just learned 10 minutes ago. It's like kids are fucking brutal like that. But I never liked not knowing shit. So I constantly asked, why, how, is this true? Is it not true? And then it got to the point where I started figuring out how to decipher whether or not something was true. And that's when real shit unlocks. And it's beautiful. The bottom line is most people you talk to know a good amount about something, but they don't know everything. And when they act like they know everything, and you just believe them instead of actually figuring things out for yourself, you're susceptible to being wrong, and it could be very, very bad for you. Like, depending on how wrong, obviously it varies with different things, but imagine if I convinced you that you had the ability to fly, but I just had to convince you to jump off of a ledge, and you just had to believe that you were going to fly, and then you would do it. If you didn't do any real research about gravity, about superpowers of flying, if you had no knowledge about whether or not you could fucking fly, and then I told you go ahead and jump off the Empire State Building, you'll be fine, and you do it, I think we all know how this is going to play out. So the point is, instead of just listening to somebody that thinks they know what they're doing, like I even challenge people about myself. I never say whatever I tell you is 100%. Like, I feel like what I tell you is right. And I don't feel, and like, honestly, I try not to tell people things that I know nothing about or I know very little about. I try to only tell people things that I feel like, dude, I've done some serious fucking work on this. I know what I'm talking about. But even then, even if I tell you I know for a fact that this is correct, I still challenge people. Go look it up for yourself. Don't believe anybody. And I know that kind of sounds counterproductive for what I'm trying to do with my podcast here. I'm trying to give people information. I'm not trying to sit here and act like I'm 100% right about everything constantly all day, every day. I'm not. There's plenty of things I don't know. But the things that I do know, I'm trying to fucking sink into your head because I think that they're helpful for you. They don't do anything for me. Now, if I was convincing everyone that listens to this to give me all their money, then it would be beneficial for me. But I'm not asking for a fucking thing from any of you. Why? Because I'm building long term. I'm building legacy. I'm being patient. I want to know that in 20 fucking years of you listening to anything that I say, that you're going to come back and be like, damn, dude, you were right. I'm not trying to make some quick snake oil salesman money. I'm not trying to dupe you. I'm not trying to harm you mentally, physically, and spiritually, anything. I'm just trying to help. If you came to me 20 years from now and said, dude, I listened to what you said and you changed my life for the better, like everything is great now, that is the utmost highest compliment and respect and honor I could possibly receive. And that's what's important to me. That's why I do what I do. That's why I'm building slowly but long term. One of the biggest driving influences, I've already told you a little bit about my parenting. I've already told you about the appreciation, how they've sunk that home. I've told you about my constant desire to learn more and more and to be right, to be historically correct, to learn facts, logic, knowledge, wisdom, all of that. I've told you about that part. The biggest driving force for me of all of those, everything I've already said and more, the biggest driving force is excellence. I greatly admire excellence from anyone, whether it's a physical excellence, a mental excellence. Like, I can't begin. Like, there's some names that I could give you that would actually make some people like turn them off. But there's reasons why I admire the excellence. Like, I admire the excellence of guys like Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Tom Brady, Joe Montana, Serena Williams, fucking Phil Jackson, the coach of the Lakers and the Bulls and wherever else he went. That Coach Ariyama, the women's basketball coach at UConn. Like, people that do things at a high... Albert Einstein, even Stephen Hawking. I disagree with a lot of what he said, but I admire the excellence. He had so much going against him and rose to the levels that he made it. And this next one that I'm going to name, guys, I hope you don't check out, but there's reasons, and I'll explain it. But even Donald Trump, and I know a lot of you listening, some people love him, some people hate him, but hear me out on this, because there's a very big reason why I admire the excellence. I'm not saying it's his policies or his personality or anything like that. Not even about him being president, nothing. Here's what I do admire. The dude, from before I've even been alive, all I've heard is people just shitting on this guy. People shitting. And listen, I hated him when he was like on that Celebrity Apprentice thing, because I thought he was just some arrogant, cocky buffoon that just looked goofy and talked goofy and like was making a big spectacle and show. I just thought he believed so highly of himself. I thought he was just the utmost cockiest person. And it just rubbed me the wrong way. But what I admire, I don't admire that part of him. What I do admire is the fact that his whole life he has had people shitting on him. He's had people doubting him. He's had people going against him, talking bad, saying he can't do things, saying he'll never get this, he'll never do this. And then all this guy does is just keeps fucking win. Like, nobody thought he could become the president. And then he did. He got into it with Obama while Obama was president, and Obama shit on him in front of everybody at a banquet hall. I can't remember what the meeting was about or whatever, but it was a big, huge room filled with politicians and important people and all that, and Donald Trump sitting there, and in front of everyone, Obama just shits on him and then says, people look up to you, people want this, but the one thing you'll never have, the one thing you'll never be is president of the United States. And then what happened a year later? This fucking guy's the president of the United States. Like, every step of his life, people were against him and doubting him, and he still kept going. Like, that kind of, even if you have the resources to accomplish a lot, when people from everywhere are just constantly in your head telling you how much you suck, it's got to be mentally draining. And it never has been for him. Same with Eminem. Like, Eminem, when he was coming up, rap was a purely African-American game, mostly, and people shit on him all along the way because he was white. They called him Vanilla Ice. They just shit on, basically discrediting everything. And then he rose above that. Same with Tiger Woods. People are like, golf is a white man's game. You're never going to make it. You're never going to be good. And this dude was just fucking killing records left and right. That kind of excellence out of people is incredible to me. Tom Brady, 6th round draft pick, 199th overall. Nobody had any faith in him. When he was coming out of college, his list of attributes or whatever was all negative. He's too frumpy, he's too thin, he's not quick, he makes poor decisions, can't read the blah, 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 can't throw the ball, all these things. And then what does he do? He goes on and wins more Super Bowls than anyone and becomes the greatest quarterback ever. LeBron James, since the time he was in like junior high, had people comparing him to Michael Jordan, saying this guy's going to be the best. He's going to be the greatest of all time. And then he comes out and just the level that he plays at to perform. Like, there's a lot of pressure on you when things like that happen. Same with Kobe. Kobe came out of high school trying to live up to Jordan and fucking killed it. I mean, just annihilated the competition. Dude, when somebody has that much going against them, and they thrive and just exceed all expectations, I am so blown away by that. I've always admired excellence. And I think that that's a big part of why I've gone where I've gone. I feel the way I feel. I learn what I learn. I try to teach what I can teach. Like, all of these things coming together, I think have always been extraordinarily big for my upbringing and for making me what I am today. I feel like that is how I got here. I feel like all of that together is how I got here. And there's many more. I mean, I'll have more talks like this down the line and down the road, and I'll tell you a little bit more and stuff about each, different stages of my life and all that. But I'm trying to keep look, I've already been going for almost an hour or whatever now, but I feel like a lot of these things are the big driving elements to get me to where I'm at. And I feel like they're important. They've always been important to me. And if there's anything I can do to help other people get to some of these things, dude, I want to do everything in my power to help anybody I can. So this is how I got here. I love you guys, and I thank you so much for listening. I hope that this is very helpful or beneficial to somebody. If you have any questions or comments or anything, you want to get a hold of me for anything, arguments or agreements, you can leave me a voicemail through the Anchor app. You can get a hold of me on Instagram at Really Rich Podcast. You can get a hold of me on Twitter at Really Rich Adam, or Snapchat or YouTube at Really Rich. You can find me on TikTok at It's Adam Rich, or LinkedIn, just Adam. It's just find me under Adam Rich, founder and host of Really Rich Podcast. And please, guys, I encourage everyone to get a hold of me. Whether, like I said, whether you agree or disagree, love me, hate me, whatever it is, I thoroughly encourage you, get a hold of me, follow, like, subscribe, whatever, tell your friends. Let's all do this together. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you soon, all right? Peace. I'm out of here.